To the Commissioner of Police and District Constable Sylford, Bobby Reds Williams' final wish came through. Bobby Williams was a patriot. Bobby could have migrated to the United States of America because his wife was an American citizen, but Bobby did not. He says Jamaica was his foreign, and he would not trade Jamaica for anything in this world. And he always wanted a funeral like this. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, retired police officers, serving police officers, and everyone who knew District Constable Sylford, Bobby Reds Williams. Today, I am coming before you differently. Today is not about attacking anybody. Today is not about exposing anybody. Today is not about politics. Today is about something my mother taught me when I was a little boy, growing up in Jonestown, Kingston 13, one of the toughest community in the Kingston metropolitan area. She taught me, never forget your manners. If somebody does something good for you, whether it is something small or something great, have enough decency, enough upbringing, enough humility, and enough respect to say thank you. Commissioner of Police Dr. Kevin Blake, I have something to say publicly, and I hope it reaches you. I will make sure to send it by registered mail to you, or there's email I can send it to you on SSP Manderson and ACP Mikey Phipps. But it's a pity that Phipps couldn't even turn up. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you to your team. Thank you to SSP Damion Manderson and the men and women of St. Andrew South Division. Thank you to every young police officer who stood there. Thank you to the officers who shouldered my father's coffin. Thank you to retired Assistant Commissioner of Police Granville John Gaz, the man behind the curtains, as usual. Thank you to SSP Dudley Bryan, another giant that never leave us. Both men from in 90s to now. Even when Bobby was in the hospital, most people don't know that. The only persons to visit Bobby were these men when he was in the hospital, and members of the Police Federation. Thanks to ASP Arlen McBean. And thank you to the people whose name I may never know, who work quietly behind the scenes, because Bobby Reds had one final wish. One simple wish that meant everything to him. When his time came, he wanted the Jamaican flag draped over his coffin. This was something that we talk about all the time, every time, because Bobby do believe that was the way that he was going out. And Commissioner Blake, you honored his final wish. That Jamaican flag.
Yes, welcome to the Jamaican Young Police Channel. To our loyal viewers, subscribers and Patreon member. At the channel, we are a group of law-abiding citizens who believe in the rule of law and respect the rights of every citizen, but not the ones who do not subscribe to such behavior. We do believe in and support preemptive strikes because they save lives. This is a logical conclusion because preemptive strikes save lives and prevent the further loss of lives. We are all about saving lives at this channel. We at the channel aid criminals with a passion and do not want them over here. We do not want your views, your subscriptions, your likes or your comments. Please go elsewhere where the red carpet is waiting for you. Over here, we want you to go to prison or the departure lounge at Madden. Moving on to today's video.
Was not decoration. That flag represented the country Bobby Reds served. It represented the communities he protected. It represented the police family. It represented sacrifice. It represented loyalty. It represented brotherhood. And when I saw that flag over my partners, I knew that although I could not physically stand beside him on his final journey, Jamaica stood beside him. And today, this morning, tonight, I want to tell you why that meant so much to me. Because Bobby Red was not simply somebody I work with. Bobby Red was my partner. He was my backup. He was my brother. And without Bobby Red's contribution to my life, I genuinely do not believe I would be where I am today. So stay with me to the end. Because tonight, I'm going to take you back to the Hunsby days when we were young. I'm going to show you some of the men who stood together during one of the most dangerous periods of policing. And I'm going to explain why the final salute given to Bobby Reds brought something out of me that I will never forget. This one is from the heart. My mother taught me never to forget my manners. Never. Before I talk about Bobby Reds, before I talk about Hunsby, before I talk about Commissioner Blake, I want to begin with the woman who first taught me what gratitude meant. My mother. My mother taught me that education is important. But education without manners means very little. You can have degrees, you can have titles, you can have rank, you can have money, you can have influence. But if somebody does something good for you and you cannot humbly yourself enough to say thank you, then something is missing. She taught me that appreciation shouldn't depend on whether somebody gave you $1 million or a glass of water. If the hat came from a good place, say thank you. And she taught me something else. Sometimes the person everybody sees getting the credit is not the only person who made something happen. People are working quietly, making telephone calls, signing documents, speaking to somebody else, making arrangements, solving problems, moving things from point A to point B. And many times, those people never ask to be called publicly. That is why today I want to acknowledge everybody, not merely Commissioner Blake, not merely SSP Manderson, not merely Granville Gars or Dudley Bryan. I want to acknowledge the young constables who was assigned and carried it out professionally. And the sergeant. I haven't recognized any of them because they have left the police force decades ago. The officers who arranged transportation, the person who coordinated the ceremony, the men who carried the coffin, the people who folded that Jamaican flag, and the people who stood there when cameras were not pointed at them. Because sometimes the greatest act of service happens when nobody is watching. And today I want them to know, I notice and I appreciate you. Bobby's final wish, one of Bobby's heartfelt desire, was that whenever God decided his journey on this earth has ended, the Jamaican flag would accompany him on his final journey. Somebody listening might say, Porter, it's just a flag. No, not to Bobby. That flag meant something. Whether man has spent years serving Jamaica, working in communities where danger sometimes come without warning, that flag represents more than cloth. It represents belonging. It represents service. It represents sacrifice. It represents the country that shaped you. It represents the people you defended. It represents the institution that became a part of your identity. For Bobby, Jamaica was not simply the place where he lived. He was a patriot. And he wanted to leave this earth under the colors of his country. And Commissioner Blake, your administration helped make that happen. That is something I will never forget. I have criticized institutions before. I will criticize institutions again whenever criticism is deserved. But fairness demands something from all of us. If we are prepared to call people out when they do wrong, then we should also be prepared to stand up publicly when they do something right. That is balance. That is fairness. That is decency. So I am standing here today saying, Commissioner, Dr. Kevin Blake, you did right by my partner. And I thank you. This was not just another co-worker. People sometimes hear the word partner and think it means we work the same shift. No. Bobby and I worked together for more than a decade. There were periods when, because of the nature of job, we spend what amount to 96 hours or more together during a single week. Think about that. There were weeks when I probably saw Bobby more than I saw members of my own family. And the same goes for him. So when you spend that kind of time together, the relationship changes. This is no longer good morning, Bobby. This becomes, Porter, where's Bobby? Bobby, where is Porter? Who's covering me? Who's watching the rear? Who's coming with me? Who understand what I am thinking before I even finish speaking? That is partnership. Some people in policing understand exactly what I mean. Sometimes your partner knows you better professionally than almost anybody else. He knows your habits. He knows when you are uncomfortable. And he knows when something does not look right. Sometimes you look at each other and nobody has to speak. One look says, something is wrong here. That kind of relationship cannot be created overnight. It is forged through experience, through danger, through disappointment, through victories, through arguments, through jokes, through exhaustion, through long nights, through crime scenes, through investigations, through situations where you do not know exactly what the next 5 minutes will bring. And eventually, that person stops being merely your co-worker. He becomes your confidant, your backup, your brother. That was Bobby Reds to me. Never leave me. And I have never left them. I could not be there. This is one of the part that still hurts. I could not physically attend Bobby's funeral. And I want people to understand something clearly. It wasn't because I didn't have leave. I had more than 240 hours of vacation leave, approximately 6 weeks, because I only work 40 hours per week. The issue involved the required briefing, training, authorization process, and ultimately the definition of immediate family use in the decision. And I understand regulations. I understand policy. I have worn uniforms. I have worked inside institutions. I understand that rules exist. But there's a sentence I want you to remember tonight. A regulation can define immediate family. A regulation cannot measure a relationship. A regulation cannot calculate 12 years of partnership. It cannot calculate nights spent together. It cannot calculate danger. It cannot calculate loyalty. It cannot calculate memories. It cannot calculate what one human being contributes to another human being's life. So yes, on paper, Bobby might not have fit somebody's definition of immediate family. But in my life, that man was family. And that is why not being there hurts. But something brought me comfort. When I watched those images and saw police officers standing there, when I saw St. Andrew South represented, when I saw the Jamaican flag, when I saw men carry Bobby, I realized you stood where I could not, and I will never forget that. SSP Damion Manderson and St. Andrew South, I want to publicly acknowledge Senior Superintendent of Police Damion Manderson, the commanding officer for St. Andrew South, and every member of the division who participated in Bobby's farewell. St. Andrew South was a part of Bobby's story, and it is a part of my story. When you hear Hunsby, when you hear St. Andrew South, you are hearing names that represent an important chapter in our lives. Those streets taught us things no classroom could. Those communities produce experience that stay with us forever. We were young policemen. We were learning. We were developing. We were becoming detectives. We were learning how criminals thought. We were learning how communities responded. We were learning whom to trust. We were learning that policing is not merely arresting people. Sometimes it's listening, observing, detecting, and preventing crime. Sometimes it's knowing when somebody is afraid. Sometimes it's understanding the difference between somebody who genuinely wants to help and somebody trying to send you in the wrong direction. And through all of that, Bobby was there. So when St. Andrew South showed up for him at that time, at the end, that meant something. It told me his service mattered. It told me the years were remembered. It told me the institution remembered one of its own. And SSP Manderson, I thank you for your leadership in that moment. To the young police officers, I saw myself in you. Now this part touched me emotionally. To the young police officers who participate in Bobby's funeral, especially the officers who carry that coffin, I want to speak directly to you. When I look at some of you, I saw myself. When I graduated from the Jamaica Police Academy in December 16th, 1988, I was the youngest police officer from my batch. I wasn't even 19, I was 18 and 8 months. I saw myself. I saw the young police officer that I used to be. Before, start having a little grey hair. Before decades of memories. Before people knew my name. I was once that young policeman standing beside senior men and trying to learn. Watching, learning, making mistakes, correcting mistakes, trying to become better. One thing There's no police officer in the Jamaica Constabulary Force who have known me can say that I'm a thief. None. Not one. They can say other things about me, but they can't. Because I wasn't. Our team shows that you can be fearless, brave, and you can be honest, ethical, and never a thief. We were never called to any of our seniors' office or OPR or any one of the agencies that investigate corruption, because that was not in my DNA. Although I was born and raised in the ghetto, where people, minds are depraved, but mine wasn't. Making mistakes, correcting mistakes, trying to become better, try to understand the profession, trying to become the best policeman I could become. And I want those young officers to understand something. When you carry Bobby's coffin, you were not simply carrying a coffin, you were carrying history. You were carrying decades of policing. You were carrying thousands of memories. You were carrying countless patrols, countless investigations, countless moments nobody photographed, countless situations that were never written about in a newspaper. You were carrying a man who once stood where you now stand. A man who once had young legs. Oh, Bobby can't run. A man who once put on his clothes and went out to work, not knowing what the day would bring. A man who once answered calls. A man who once walked into danger. A man who once depended upon his partners. And one day, many years from now, God willing, it will be your generation looking backwards. Another young officer will be standing where you once stood. So never lose your humanity. Never lose your professionalism. Never lose your respect for those who came before you. Because tradition matters. Service matters. Respect matters. And to every one of you who carry Bobby, from an old detective looking at the next generation, I salute you. Looking at Detective Inspector Lincoln Castle to your left. And after Detective Inspector Lincoln Castle, that Detective Rock Stevens, that's Bobby Reds, and Assistant Commissioner of Police Granville, guys, and that's yours truly. I can tell you that ACP, guys, is the man that was in charge of us. Lincoln Castle was our SOIC, then our DDI, and the team were there, including our bicycle squad. Some of you will see 5 men. I see a lifetime. I put up some more photographs of men who served with us who were killed in the line of duty. I'll do a video about one of the detectives, Kirk Palmer, who was shot in Riverton City with yours truly, Bobby Reds and Rock Stevens, 5 times in the left side of his chest. I'm the one who, and that story, I'm the one who took up Kirk Palmer's shotgun off the ground, his 9mm pistol, and apply pressure to the left side of his chest. He was bleeding like a pig, and it was a shooting out. I'll tell you about that to tell you why Bobby's one of the greatest police. Yeah, we'll lift him up, put him in the car, and I'm just digressing. That day, to show you we used to live as a team. They had just picked me up at the airport. I was just coming off leave. Picked me up in the vehicle at the airport. My suitcase was in the trunk of the car. Dressed to the nine. Coming from foreign, and my sneakers, my Nike. My M16, my 9mm pistol and magazines were given to me at the airport. And when we reached at Harborview roundabout, we got a call from Control that gunmen were seen in Riverton City, and we got the location. And we just say, go. And Rock says, but you just come off a plane. I say, no man, go. And Bobby say, so we work, you know. I'll tell you about that. I'll tell you about that story later. Because people see us and don't know what we have been through. Bobby is one of the bravest and one of the baddest police. What we did that day, most police wouldn't do that. Because after Palmer, we picked him off the ground and put him in that vehicle with Rock, and we told Rock, no portable. We told Rock just call Control and for help. And Bobby and I start to pursue the men them. Running shootout in Riverton City. It was 5 men. 3. Straight to the departure lounge. Anyway, moving on. Sorry for the digression. I just want to show even the same day. So I just came off the plane. They had once back then we were a family. So they had, record my time return or leave. Not me, they did that. And Bobby and I, we had to go we had to go to KPH for them to wash off, to use some form of chemical to wash off, because mud from the swamp part was up to our belly. Because we had to get them. So moving on. So some of you will see 5 men. I'm gonna put some more. I'm gonna put Bruce Brown, the first one to die from the team. Most of you who works at Huntsville might know Detective Inspector Gunter. Detective Inspector Gunter was a part of the team. Yes, and I'm gonna teach you guys about how to show you that we as teammates, there was no bad blood, no bad mind or anything like that. But that's for another time. So moving on. So I see men who knew what it meant to go where others, people did not necessarily want to go. From left, Detective Inspector Lincoln Castle, he passed away. Detective Rock Stevens, Bobby Reds, ACP Granville John Gaz, and Detective Chris Porter, that's me. When I look at photographs like this today, I realize how quickly life moves. But then none of us stood there thinking one day this photograph will become history. We were living, working, fighting crime, laughing, arguing, planning, trying to get home safely. And even if we argue, that didn't last. No one getting in them ego. We were families. Sometimes we think history is something that happened 100 years ago. No. Sometimes history is simply what happened when enough time passes over the life you already live. That whole photograph is history now. And every man in that photograph has a story. Once be a team on the price of policing. When I think about our team and our history, I remember how dangerous that era could become. Our team leader was Leslie Ashman. Members of that team faced gunfire. Gunter was shot. Rock Stevens was shot. Kirk Palmer was shot. Bruce Brown was shot and killed. Gatta, who was not part after, he was shot and killed too. They are not movie scenes. These are human beings. These are people with families. People who laugh. People who had plans. People who probably thought about what they were going to eat later in the evening. And then something happened. That is policing. Sometimes danger does not send you an appointment. It does not call and say, officer, prepare yourself. At 3:45 this afternoon, something terrible is going to happen. No. You leave home and you do not know. That is why partnership means so much. That is why backup means so much. That is why trust means so much. And after all those dangerous years, 2 members of our team were never shot. 2, Bobby, Reds and me. Think about that. The day when Kirk Palmer got shot, we, Bobby and me, had just left around that side of the house. Less than 3 seconds. Because normally when we enter in a yard, it's all, I'm the person, because I'm the team leader, I'm the one who's always in front, and behind me is always Bobby. So we'll make sure we clear that section, and then other person then come in, and then we go to the other part. And that's how Palmer got shot. Rock didn't get shot that day either. But Rock was the one that drove him to KPH. He survived the gunman. He survived dangerous assignments. And in the end, God allowed him to leave this world through natural causes. For that, I thank God. Because I believe somewhere in Bobby's mind, like many of us who were those kinds of assignments, there were probably always the thought, one day a bullet might get me. But that was not his ending. God had another exit prepared. We had fun fighting crime. Yes, I want to avoid making this video so heavy that we overlook something important. We laugh. Man, we laugh. People sometimes look at police officers and imagine everybody spend 24 hours walking around with a serious face. No. You could not survive some of those environments psychologically without humor. Trust me. We had a very good sense of humor. We had serious moments. We had dangerous moments. But we also had some wonderful moments. We had fun fighting crime, trust me. Sometimes when you spend that much time with somebody, you develop jokes nobody else understands. Code words. You develop stories that only 2 people in the world understand. Somebody says one word and everybody starts laughing because it takes you back 15 years. And that is what friendship becomes. And those memories are priceless. Nobody can take them. Time cannot erase them all. Death cannot erase them. When somebody dies, the physical relationship ends. But the memories do not suddenly disappear. Sometimes one photograph brings everything back. One voice recording, one place, one street, one old story, one nickname, and suddenly that person is alive again in your mind. And that is Bobby Reds to me. Granville John Gaz. Now I want to talk about a man I have mentioned many times. Retired ACP Granville John Gaz. Boss. Thank you. Some people will tell you that of all the police officers in the world, he's the only one that can tell me, Porter, stop that, and I will stop. I don't question it. God, this is a man we always have our back. And I use the word boss with respect. Because when I look back at the men who helped shape our development as crime fighters, your contribution cannot be erased. One thing people need to understand about leadership is this. Sometimes you don't know how much influence you had on somebody until 20 or 30 years later. A young officer may not tell you, a detective may not tell you, but years later, you realize that man taught me something. That man opened a door. That man corrected me. That man trusted me. That man helped shape the policeman I became. One thing that I love with ACP, Granville John Gaz, and Dudley Bryan, they are not afraid to tell you in their office that what you did was wrong and correct you. Then these are people that you'll learn to respect. That is what leadership is all about. And ACP Gaz, You were one of those men. But what impresses me now is something else. The ranks eventually comes off. The uniform eventually goes into the closet. The office eventually belongs to somebody else. The police vehicle eventually gets reassigned. Commands change. Commissioners change. Everybody's career eventually ends. But real relationship can survive retirement. They can survive promotions. They can survive transfers. They can survive distance. And sometimes they even survive death. Bobby died. And you were still there. You were still there. Not because you didn't call, the children and tell them this. They don't know what you have done. Even when Bobby was in hospital, you called Sergeant Arlene McBean. There's no one in the JSAF that know Bobby and me as you. None. Because you were like a father to us. Some people say that I was like a son. That's a John Gau's boy. Then others will say other things, but the whole team still had our backs. And I will never forget that. Yeah, I will never forget it. That. SSP Dudley Bryan. I cannot forget that SSP Dudley Bryan. Sir, thank you. This is a man who have been taking care of me from I was at training school. And I said take care of me, I mean train me, impart, honesty, decency and ethics from I was a cadet at the police academy from in the 80s. I can tell you a story, when Gilbert, and there's a corporal at the time named Mason. I gave him a name, called him Hero. And he was giving everyone pass to go and shower when we had no water on campus. And he said he's not going to give me any because he didn't like me, because I gave him a name and he didn't like it. The name Hero. I am the one that gave him that name. And I still went, I broke barracks. And I took the bus right in front of the police academy. Went straight over to Waterford, to my father's house, and have my shower and come back. And Dudley Bryan caught me at the front when I was coming in. And one of the reasons why I speak fast, because I had a stutter problem. And he said, stammer, you get past. I said, no. And he said, that's a trouble. And he said that he was in the guard room and he just warned me. And from then I had respect for him. He didn't write me for anything like that. But he said that what Mr. Mason did was unfair. And he, as a sergeant, had seen it for himself. And he said that although I break barracks, I wasn't hiding because I could have used other ways to enter the campus. Because I'm an ex-cadet. I used to break barracks, but I never used to break it through the front gate. Because when one member of the whole family passed away, people who had been instrumental in our development were still present. The same gratitude applies. That means something. This is something I want young officers to learn. Do not build a relationship based upon somebody's current rank. Because rank changes. Constable becomes a corporal becomes a sergeant becomes an inspector, somebody becomes a superintendent, somebody retires, somebody leaves, but character remains, relationships remain, and years later, when somebody dies, the people who genuinely care are often the ones who still show up. That is brotherhood, not slogan, not speech, it's presence. And Gaz and Brian, you were still present. Thank you. Commissioner Blake, leadership is also remembering. Commissioner Blake, I want to return to you. Leadership is not simply giving commands. Leadership is not merely standing at a podium. Leadership is not simply issuing policies. Leadership is also remembering the people who serve. Behind every uniform is a human being. Behind every regulation number is somebody's son, somebody's father, somebody's husband, somebody's friend, somebody's partner. Behind every career, every police career, are sacrifices the public will never fully know. And when Bobby's service was recognized at the end of his life, something very important happened. The institution sent a message. We remember you. You may no longer answer on the radio. You may no longer be walking into the station. You may no longer be attending crime scenes. You may no longer be standing shoulder to shoulder with your partners. But your contribution existed. Your service existed. Your sacrifice existed. And we remember. That is why this meant so much. Why public gratitude matters? Somebody may ask. Why make a whole video just to say thank you? Because we make videos to complain. We make videos to criticize. We make videos when people disappoint us. So why should gratitude be whispered? Why should appreciation be private? If somebody does something publicly honorable, why should we be ashamed to say thank them publicly? We need more of that. Jamaica needs more of that. Families need more of that. Police organizations need more of that. Communities need more of that. Tell people thank you while they are alive. Give people their flowers while they can smell them. Tell the young officer, good job. Tell the supervisor, I appreciate what you did. Tell your partner, I value you. Tell your friend, you helped me. Because sometimes we wait until funerals and then suddenly everybody finds a vocabulary. Suddenly everybody knows the person who was great. But yet, when Bobby was in the hospital, only 2 persons helped him and reached out to him that worked with him. Everybody knew. Because I had sent messages. John Garza and Dudley Bryan. Right to the end. Suddenly, everybody remembers what that person meant. Do not wait. That is the part of why I am doing this video. Commissioner Blake is alive. SSP Manderson is alive. ACP Garza is alive. SSP Dudley Bryan is alive. Those young police officers are alive. So I'm not waiting. Thank you. Without Bobby Reds, I would not be who I am. This is deeply personal. Without Sylford, Bobby Reds, Williams' contribution to my life and my police career, I genuinely do not believe I would be the person I am today. We've been through all kind of things. Believe you me. And I mean that. Rain, shine, all kind of thing. And when people look at somebody's achievements, they usually see the person standing in front of them. They see the finished product. They do not see the people behind that person. They do not see the partner who gave advice. They do not see the person who said, try it this way. They do not see the person who covered your back. They do not see the person who helped when things went wrong. They do not see the friend who listened when you were frustrated. They do not see the man who said, keep going. Bobby was one of those persons. Bobby was one of those people in my life who fought. We fought crime together. We travel together. We laugh together. We disagree. Of course we disagree. I don't ever think we agree on. If you spend that much time together, somebody with somebody and tell me you never disagree, somebody is lying. Brothers disagree, partners disagree, but the bond remain. That's why when Bobby died and when the daughter was facing all kind of roadblock and I did the video, some people say, you're crying. Of course I was crying. Bobby was close to me. Ask any police who knew us. Rock was a part of the team too. Ask that of all of the people. 6 of us were on the team and Bobby and me were the closest. And our bond remain. That cannot erase that history. A police family should not forget its own. No police force is perfect. No institution is perfect. No police officer is perfect. And certainly, I was not perfect either. But institutions occasionally get moments where they can demonstrate character. This was one of those moments. Bobby Reds had completed his shift on earth. He could no longer ask anybody for anything. He could no longer make a phone call. He could no longer advocate for himself. He could no longer say, remember me? So it became the responsibility of the living. And the living remembered that is dignity. And when an institution remembers somebody who can no longer give anything back to that institution, that is meaningful. Because Bobby no longer earned a promotion. He could no longer produce statistics. He could no longer make an arrest. He could no longer make anybody look good. The only thing left was his service, his name, his history, his memory, and that was honor. Thank you. The flag. The Jamaican flag. Black, green, and gold. For some people, it is simply a national symbol. For Bobby, it was his country. It was his home. And for a policeman who had spent so much of his life serving Jamaica, I cannot imagine a more meaningful final salute than leaving under those colors. Bobby wanted the Jamaican flag. Bobby got the Jamaican flag. That is why the thumbnail say his final wish came through. And Commissioner Blake and team, you play your part in making that happen. To everybody who attended, 2-year-old Sticky, Gunter, Rock, Ashman, Affleck, Anderson, Preacher, I even say Cowboy. We used to work with him too. We're not friends, but we used to work together. And what at the relationship with Cowboy and yours truly, and it has nothing to do with him. It was just that Ox put him in our position and because they are friends. And that's how everything went out. But that's for another time. To everybody who attended Bobby's funeral, thank you. To those who did make it and live in Jamaica, it's on you. I see Ross Roden. I see Claudette Hepburn. The only two person there, the only people there that could give you history about Bobby: John Gaz, Dudley Bryan, Reuben Gunter, Leslie Ashman, or Rock Stevens. I could not be there, but you were. To everybody from St. Andrew South, thank you. To every old colleague, thank you. To those who called me after the funeral and said, boy, I was hoping to see you because I haven't seen you in a decade. Because I know that you're Bobby or you're Pahari. I could not be there. As you know, I work for one of the largest agencies in the world. There are different agencies. And right now, they are at war. So the time, I would not get the time, the training and everything before I leave. And then when I reach, I would have to report to the consulate that over by the embassy, and the time would not afford me. Then to every old colleague, thank you. To every family member, thank you. To every friend, thank you. To the man who's from Waltham, I'm not gonna call his name, who flew all the way from New York just to a Rasta man, just to say goodbye to Bobby. Thanks. To every officer standing in formation, thank you. To the pallbearers, thank you. To the people who organize what the public saw, thank you. And to the people who organize things the public never saw, thank you. You stood there when I could not. You said goodbye when I could not physically say goodbye. And you gave my brother dignity on his final journey. Young officers, I want you to remember Bobby Reds. Maybe you never worked with him. Maybe you were children when we were fighting crimes. We were young, energetic, never know that we'll get old one day, because we always see that we're going to be young forever. Some of you may not even have been born when some of these unspeak photographs were taken. But that is how institutions work. Every generation inherits something from the generation before. And then you had your chapter. One day somebody is going to look at photographs of you. One day somebody will say, that officer served here. That officer worked here. That officer helped me. That officer saved somebody. That officer taught me something. You hear, 2 days after Bobby passed away, a man called all the way from California and tell us that we saved his life. He was a gunman. All of his friends are dead. So build a career worth remembering. Worst thing you can do as a police officer is thief. It's like our Superintendent Victor Barrett and the others thief people coke. Don't do that, police. Trust me. It's good when you're a police officer and people can say things about you, but one thing they can't do is say that you're a thief. I know policing now is more difficult than in my time because you have cameras, and cameras don't sleep and they don't lie. So it's harder. Things that we did back then, you can't do it now. Because you have to always be thinking of that unseen eyes. That eyes never sleep. So build your career worth remembering. Do not merely chase rank. Do not merely chase popularity. Chase professionalism. Chase competence. Chase integrity. When I was working, I wasn't chasing popularity. Although after a while, we became very popular in the Kingston metropolitan area, even as far as the St. Thomas. Anywhere people would know that that's Bobby Reds and Porter. Treat people with dignity. Learn from experienced officers. And never assume the whole policemen have nothing to teach you. Some of them carry libraries inside their heads. Experience paid for with fear. Experience paid for with mistakes. Experience paid for with scars. Experience paid for with loss of friends. Listen, learn, then improve upon what they taught you. That is how institutions grow. Bobby, you survive. You survive the dangerous assignments. You survive the streets. You survive the era. You survive situation that could have ended differently. And in the end, God called you home naturally. I find peace in that. Because after everything we saw, after everything we experienced, after watching colleagues get shot, after watching people die, you had leave us differently. And maybe, just maybe, that was God's final gift to you. Now, I want to close this the way I believe Bobby deserve. Bobby Reds, wherever your spirit may be, rest peacefully, my brother. You served, you sacrificed, you survived, you earned your rest. Your shift is over, but your name is not over. Your service is not forgotten. Your courage is not forgotten. Our memories are not gone. Hunsby remembers. St. Andrew South remembers. Your friends remember. Your colleagues remember. And I remember. Until the day I take my final breath, there will be stories involving Bobby Red's story inside me. Some serious, some dangerous, some hilarious. Some I will never tell publicly. Never. But they belong to us. And that is friendship. Final message to Commissioner Blake and the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake, I ask that Bobby Reds be remembered. You remembered him. I expect his service to be recognized. You recognized it. Bobby wanted the Jamaican flag to accompany him on his final journey. That wish was honored. So there's nothing complicated left for me to say. Just 2 words. 2 words my mother taught me never to be too proud to use. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Blake. Thank you, SSP Damion Manderson. Thank you to the leadership of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, including the thanks to the chaplain for a wonderful service. Thanks to the rank and file members. Thank you to those officers, young officers. I've seen myself there. Thank you to the pallbearers. Thank you, retired Assistant Commissioner of Police, Granville, John Goss. Thank you, retired SSP Dudley Bryan. Thank you, Superintendent Winston 2-year-old Hunt. Thank you, retired DSP Norman Sticky Hamilton. Thanks to retired DSP Leslie Ashes Ashman, our team leader. Thanks to Detective Inspector Ruben Gunter, our teammate Rocky, which is Zachary, Preacher, Anderson, Somi Afflick, and we call McLegan, Simon Essen, Preacher, Anderson, Freckleton, and I could go on. I would, just calling the names, that would take up the entire video. So thank to everybody who worked behind the scenes. And thank you to everyone who stood there for Bobby Reds when I physically could not. What you did gave me comfort. You allow my partner to leave this world with the Jamaican flag proudly drape his coffin. And for a man who dedicated such a significant portion of his life, Jamaica, I cannot imagine a more meaningful final salute. Bobby Reds, my partner, my brother, my friend. Until we meet again. So ladies and gentlemen, if you stay with me to the end of this tribute, put these words in the comment section, final salute. Not for me, for Bobby. And if you serve with Bobby Reds, work at Hunsby, St. Andrew South, and you any member of the old crime fighting team, share one respectful memory below. Let this comment section become a part of the historical record, because men eventually leave us, photographs fade, uniforms comes off, rank disappears. But if we tell the stories, the legacy remain. Always remember, manners take you through the world. A final word of gratitude. There's an old Jamaican saying that I grew up hearing. Manners take you through the world. And the older I become, the more I understand the wisdom contained in those few words. Manners are not weakness. Humility is not weakness. Showing appreciation does not make a man smaller. In fact, I believe it makes him bigger. Because true humility teaches us that no matter what we have accomplished, no matter where life has taken us, no matter what titles we may hold, we should never become too proud to recognize the good that somebody else has done. We should never become too important to say thank you. Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake, that is what I want to do in closing. I want to show my manners. I want to show my humility. I want to show respect. And I want to do it not only for myself, but on behalf of my fallen partner, District Constable Sylford Bobby Reds Williams. Because Bobby Reds is not here to pick up the telephone and call you. Bobby Reds is not here to shake your hand. Bobby Reds is not here to look you in the eyes and say, Commissioner, thank you. He cannot thank SSP Manderson. He cannot thank the officers of St. Andrew South. He cannot thank those young officers who stood with dignity and carried him on his final journey. Bobby's a legend. He cannot thank the people who work quietly behind the scenes. And he cannot personally thank everyone who helped fulfill one of the wishes that meant so much to him. Leaving this world with the Jamaican draped flag over his casket, so somebody has to say it. And as the man who worked beside Bobby for more than a decade, as the man who trusted him, as the man who depended upon him, as the man who laughed with him, faced danger with him, and regard him not simply as a co-worker but as a brother, I will say it for him. Commissioner Blake, thank you. Thank you for your leadership team. Thank you to SSP Manderson. Thank you to the men and women of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Thank you to St. Andrew South. Thank you to the young officers who helped give Bobby Reds a dignified final salute. And thank you to every person whose name I may never know, who played some part in making that moment possible. I am number 2478, ex-detective Constable Christopher Porter, a man born at 38 Oxford Street, Jonestown, Kingston 12. I came from humble beginnings, and no matter where life has taken me, I refuse to forget the lessons I was taught growing up. Respect people. Remember those who help you. Don't forget where you came from. Don't let pride stop you from expressing gratitude. And above all, never forget your manners. Commissioner Blake, Bobby Reds cannot tell you himself. So today, with humility, respect and gratitude, I am telling you for him. You honor my partner. You respected his service. You helped honor his final wish. And for that, Commissioner Blake and the entire team of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Bobby Reds may no longer be here to speak, but as long as I am here, his contribution will not be forgotten. His service will not be forgotten. His friendship will not be forgotten. And the people who showed him dignity on his final journey will not be forgotten either. Because as our Jamaican elders taught us, manners take you through the world. And today this is my way of showing mine. Thank you, Commissioner Blake. Thank you, Jamaica Constabulary Force. And Bobby Reds, rest well, my brother. Your final wish was honored. District Constable Sylford Bobby Reds Williams. Final salute. Jamaica Young Police Channel. Unsby 7 out. Until we meet again. Rest in peace, Bobby Reds. Have yourself a beautiful day. Jamaica Young Police Channel out.